everybody. Welcome back to the Fin Factor. I'm Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
This is episode number 180. And Aaron, I know that there's a topic that everyone can't wait to get to, but
we just stunk.
I promise that we will get to it. Patience will pay off, everybody. Peter St. John says, evening, fellas and ladies. There are no ladies here, but yes, anybody happens to be listening or typing in chat, hello to you as well. Aaron, well, you want to just jump in maybe with the games that had happened this week? Because I think that's where maybe it's a good time to start. We're going to be going through some of these games, and then we'll go through kind of some of the exit interviews, because, of course, this is the end of the season for the Sharks. There are no playoffs, unfortunately. Actually, real quick, someone who was fighting here was Will Scott K saying, will Dallas fight for Pavs the way SJ did? Nasty hit. You know what? Why don't we start off with that? Get some people some time to get into the room real quick here. What did you think about that hit on Pavelski? Obviously, you saw it. Just tell me what you thought.
Well, we're talking about right now, Minnesota is playing Dallas, and Joe Pavelski playing for Dallas got hit by Matt Dumba. And when I first looked at it, it looked pretty dirty. Plus, Dumba kind of has a history of borderline hits, so I immediately thought it was pretty dirty. Pavelski hit his head on the ice and kind of knocked him out, so it was very reminiscent of when he was on the Sharks and the whole 5-minute power play that they got. So they originally called it a 5-minute major, and then they went to the review, which is the Pavelski rule where they can review 5-minute majors, and they called it back and called it 2 minutes. So so that's unfortunate, but I think, yes, they absolutely should. And I was just telling Paul, I was like, man, this series is probably going to get dirty. I bet Dallas is going to go after Kaprizov, because if they're going to go after some of the, the star players, then that's what pretty much practically the only star player on Minnesota is Kaprizov. And if they take him out, I think Minnesota will be done. So, watch for that series to get kind of dirty, I guess. And there's Lundy. Lundy, I haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for the $1.99. Says go Dallas. You rooting for Dallas, Paul?
I don't know who I'm rooting for, to be honest with you. I kind of feel like Dallas is the right play there. I think Burnsy's probably got a little bit more time than Pavs does, but maybe Dallas is the right call here. So I think maybe we're probably with you here, Lundy. It seems like maybe a couple other people were going to be rooting for Dallas too. I thought I saw a comment in here, somebody saying that they were going to be rooting for Dallas. Maybe not.
Now, Kellen's watching the game right now, so he's not watching us.
Oh, Kellen's watching. Okay, cool. Other comments we got going on here. Grandizer12 says, what up, Paul, Aaron, and Super Producer Jason? What's going on, you rascals? We're just talking hockey. You know how we do it. Nick does not want to be reminded of the games the Sharks played most recently because he was there. He was actually there in Calgary and in Edmonton. He sent me photo evidence that he was there, although he also sent me, it was on the Jumbotron. It said, welcome, Fin Factor. And I was like, no way you did that. And he's no, I didn't. I photoshopped it. I was like, that's rude. It's rude, Nick.
Just me.
Got my hopes up. And Patrick Cabral jumping straight to it. Yeah. So Scott says, Paul with the immediate response. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, I know. The immediate response of, hey, we're getting to it. And Patrick Cabral knows exactly what we're talking about. Says, no, give us the jerseys. Yeah, we'll be talking about it. I'm sure. Okay. SPJ figured that was Photoshop. Yes. Well done, SPJ. Of course.
We have our resident Ottawa fan here, 2 wheels down. Oilers will get the cup this year. My Sens fans' opinion. I don't think so. I don't think Edmonton's winning. Why? Because defense wins championships, and they probably have one of the worst defenses in the entire crop of playoff teams. So do I want them to win? I wouldn't mind seeing them win because it's a copycat league in the NHL. So people see what won a cup that year. And if it's high scoring offense with Draisaitl and McDavid scoring over 100 points, then that's, not that 100-point players grow off of trees, but the formula and the system that creates that kind of offense, a lot more teams would follow that. So it would increase scoring, make games more exciting. We'd be back to the 80s and early 90s hockey where it was 9-7 scores, which would be just amazing. So yeah, I wouldn't mind, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Edmonton's going to win.
Honestly, I don't know, man. They've got a lot of firepower. It's hard to unless there's an injury, and I hate saying that because last time I said that it happened. But it's really hard to stop just those top two. You know, if you can get past those two guys, and it's not that big of a deal. If you can shut them down, rather, it's not that big of a deal. But they're just pretty high powered, and I just don't know. I don't know if there's another team out there. I mean, the Boston Bruins, obviously, right? They're phenomenal. But I don't know. I think Edmonton's got a really good shot this year, and actually, no, a Canadian team finally winning it once wouldn't be such a bad thing. I know you kind of like the to joke about it, but it wouldn't.
I don't joke. I want Toronto's thing to just keep going.
So
at least 100 years.
So there's an X-Shark development that I was unaware of. I don't know if you knew this. Lundy coming back with another $1.99 super chat says, Braun, no, kind of like Darth Vader at the end there. So I thought maybe just because, okay, they're not making playoffs or something, but Peter St. John says Bronner is retiring. What will Lundy do? This is news to me.
You didn't know that?
I did not know this.
Oh, it's cool. They announced it, and they let Braun's dad sit behind the bench of the last game.
Well, so I knew all that. I didn't realize that he was retiring. I just thought that was the last game, like end of a contract. What I didn't know he was done.
Done.
Wow.
He's Dunsky. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You want to read this 2 wheels down comment?
To the Sharks, Alex DeBrincat. Just popped up. To the Senators, Erik Karlsson in your second rounder. San Jose keeps 25% of Karlsson's salary. No.
I don't think we're keeping a whole lot of salary, bud.
For DeBrincat, I mean, DeBrincat is a phenomenal offensive player, but not what the Sharks need right now. The Sharks aren't ready to compete, at least for another season or two. So if they've got DeBrincat, they'd be wasting. It would be like having Timo Meier on their team again. Like, not what they would need. So I don't think that would do it. Sure, would it help the Senators? Yeah. But then that would make Karlsson basically a rental to the Sharks, and Ottawa fleece the Sharks for that rental. So no, I don't think that would happen.
Let's move on to these games. I know Nick doesn't want to hear it, but the Calgary game, we don't want to go too far into it. There's really only one thing to talk about here. Calgary, it's a 3-1 loss, and then Edmonton was a 5-2 loss. But the Calgary game had sort of an interesting little cliff note to it, Aaron.
The starting goalie, and I got to look up his name because I already forgot it. He is a California native from Gilroy, California. So very, very close by to San Jose. Wolf, that's his name. It is Dustin Wolf, 22 years old. He was a 7th round pick in 2019. I'm actually kind of surprised the Sharks did not draft him, in the 7th round, like take a chance, kind of.
Especially on Gilroy kid.
7th round local kid. That's freaking amazing. So, he got his first career starts, and he won. They won 3-1. So a 1 goal against average, .958 save percentage. That's that's a pretty good start to his career. And supposedly he could possibly be the future of the Calgary Flames starting goaltending. But who knows? 2022 is very young for a goalie. They're probably just giving him a little taste, and then he's going to go back down next year. I don't think he would be the starter next year.
Fair enough. Before we jump into some other things here, Super Producer Jason just reminded everybody in the chat that this is our last show of the 2022-2023 season. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that in numerous ways. One is with the super chat function. Anything you put in your comment there, just like Lundy did, we'll go ahead and read it out live on the show. Or if you do it after the fact, we can always insert it into the next show, whenever that may be. You can also go hit us up on Venmo at FinFactor. Jeez. At FinFactor on Venmo. And again, same thing. If you put your comment in there, we can go ahead and read it out live. Or I'm sorry, at the FinFactor. My bad. At FinFactor is Instagram, isn't it?
Oh, I can't lie. It was, a lot last, month, and
it's harder than it looks, folks.
We just stunk.
It's true.
At the Fin Factor, if you'd like to tip us through Venmo. If you'd like to go ahead and support the show, you can do that also by going to thefinfactor.com and get any of the merchandise that's there. Stop it. Any of the merchandise that's there. Help supports the show. Super Producer Jason having a whole lot of fun the final stream of the season there. Aaron, I think we're going to go ahead and jump into probably the highest of highlights for the entire season. One man, one mission, alternate captain Erik Karlsson. Super Producer Jason, you know what we do.
We just stunk.
I still like that one the most, I think. Aaron, why don't you go ahead and run through some of these amazing, incredible stats? What a phenomenal year for Erik Karlsson.
All right. He played an entire 82 game season, which he hasn't done in a very long time. That is, yeah, I think obviously 100 points is amazing, but 82 games, playing full 82 games, that's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years since he's done that. So amazing for Karlsson doing it at 32 years old.
32, I think, yeah.
32. Into those 82 games, he had 25 goals, 76 assists for 101 points. He ended the season with a minus 26. Probably 20 of those were empty net goals, I think. Like there was a lot. I think they might have led the league in empty net goals. I did not look that up, so don't quote me. 36 penalty minutes. He had 5 power play goals, 27 power play assists, 4 game winners, 2 overtime goals, and 209 shots, and a shot percentage of 12. His career average after this season is 6.9. So he almost doubled his career average there.
Wow.
So don't expect him to get 25 goals next year. There's going to be some regression, assuming he's even on the Sharks. But yeah, that's a fantastic season. And there's a tweet here I'm going to put up here from the San Jose Sharks PR. Erik Karlsson finished the points on 43.35% of all of the Sharks' goals this season. This is now the highest by a defenseman in the NHL's modern era since 1943-44, with Bobby Orr having recorded points on 43.32% of Boston goals during the 69-70 NHL season. Nobody has done it better. There you've had it. The absolute best defenseman in the league, well deserving of his $11.5 million salary. I have no qualms about it. So just an unbelievable season that I don't think anybody would have foreseen going into this season. People were hoping, I think I couldn't find the clip, but I think from what I remember, I was hoping for a 60 to 70 point season if he played 70 plus games. That's, I'm pretty sure something I said like that. I can't remember exactly, but so getting 100 points on 82 games is just unreal. 101 points.
And I seem to remember having that stance that he was going to play finally over 70 games. And we'll get to some of the things that we had talked about, what we thought was going to happen this season. I'm glad that one came to fruition because not just that he was able to have the season that he had and generate the points that he was able to generate, but to show everybody that, yes, I'm healthy. I'm not a glass cannon, right? And I think for not just for everybody else, but for him specifically, that was very important to him to show everybody that he can stay healthy. Because as you said, it had been 7 seasons, I think you said, where he hadn't played the full 82. And it's marvelous to have so much talent and to be able to play the game at such a high level, higher than anybody else, as he showed this year. But none of that means anything if you're sitting off to the sidelines because you're always injured. So for him to show everybody that, you know, if I'm a part of your team, let's say a future trade happens here, if I'm a part of your team, I am capable of still playing the full 82, even though I'm, you know, past my prime. I'm 32 years old. Next year, going to be 33. So I think that was one of the most important things for Erik Karlsson, was to get past this stigma that he's, you know, again, this glass cannon, that he breaks easily. And not only was he able to play all 82, but he was able to have a remarkable, incredible over a point per game season, almost an assist per game on top of the goals that he had, really. So just an amazing season for him. Very happy for him. We'll hear from Coach David Quinn in a little bit here, kind of his thoughts on it. But why don't we exit out of the alternate captain Erik Karlsson segment, and then we'll jump into the exit interviews. Go ahead.
Weigh anchor.
Weigh anchor. All right. So this is the Erik Karlsson exit interview. So we talked a little bit about Erik Karlsson stats wise and whatnot. We got that stuff out of the way. We have a clip here, and it's Curtis Pashelka asking about staying with the Sharks versus maybe going over to like a win now team, a team that's ready to go, ready to win, as the Sharks are going to be rebuilding just a bit here during kind of the remainder of Erik Karlsson's contract. So why don't we go ahead and just play this clip for you guys, and we'll go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think I've been pretty open about that since all this started, that, you know, I do want to win. I do feel like I still have it in me to help a team achieve that, and you know, at the same time, I do enjoy it here. I like it here. I always have, and you know, we'll see where it all lines up, and again, like, those are things that are kind of not in my hands, but, you know, I'm never going to shy away from the fact that you know, I play this game to win, and that's always going to be my number one priority, and you know, we'll see where it goes, but I know that you know, things here are going in the right direction, and you know, I know that you know, the future is going to be really good here. When that is, like I said, we can't predict that, unfortunately, and those are, you know, things that, you know, I don't really control and can do very much about right now.
So Aaron, tell me your thoughts on that one, because again, it seems like he's happy where he is. He likes the area and everything else, and he's just kind of like one of those guys where I'm just going to go to work, right? But at the same time, he is talking specifically about, I want to win. So this can be taken either direction. What do you think about the response? What do you think, maybe if he's leaning one way or the other?
I think, to me, after listening, and we're going to get into later what Greer said about the same issue, after listening to both of them, to me, it sounds like they're both very honest with each other, Greer and Karlsson, and that it's not that Karlsson wants to leave, and it's not that Greer wants to trade him, but at the same time, if Karlsson wants to go, and again, he has a no movement clause, so he can dictate where, if he's going to get traded or not. I think it's more along the lines of, if something pops up, if there's an opportunity and it's good for the Sharks and Karlsson's okay with doing it and going, then it's a go. And if it's not good for Karlsson, then they'll kill it. And if it's not good for the team, they'll kill it unless Karlsson really pushes for it. But it's really tough to move an $11.5 million contract, especially if the salary cap is not going to go up very much next year. I haven't heard any news on that front, if it's going up by 1 or 4 million. So I don't think he wants to leave. He wants to win. He could also be waiting to see what ball drops at the lottery. Can you imagine if they get the first overall pick and he gets traded or wants to get traded, then changes his mind because he wants to play with Connor Bedard? So I think he's just kind of waiting for things to fall in place, especially after free agency, and see what other teams look like, see what the Sharks look like, see who wins the cup this year, who looks to be a contender or needs someone that is a 100-point right shot defenseman. So I don't think it's yes or no either way. I think it's just open-ended. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's okay too.
Yeah, I think kind of we've alluded to in previous episodes where we said, you know, there's going to be a team that wishes they made a trade for this type of player because they're going to have an injury, or that's going to be the one piece that they were missing. Or like I was saying with Reimer, I think there's going to be a team that is maybe going to have an injury or something's going to happen, and they really wish they would have traded and picked him up, and that would have been the difference. I really do believe that James Reimer is better than the stats show. So I think for Erik Karlsson, it's the main barrier obviously is the contract, right? The 11.5 million, and still got term on it too. Let's not forget that. It's not like it's 11.5 million for 1 year and they can figure it out after that year is said and done. But I do think that if it's going to happen, this is the best chance, right? During the season, they've got their rosters locked in. Now they would have to try to figure out how to make $11.5 million worth of space, whether it's through salary retention on the other end, right, to kind of lower that hit, or trading a bad contract out, or trading just a bunch of guys that maybe they are just taking up a few $1 million here and there, and it adds up. That's a lot tougher to do during the season. Now, after all is said and done, you've got the draft coming in. They're looking at guys that they're moving out through the draft trades and whatnot. and they're looking at guys that are expiring contracts, and they're saying, okay, now we have all of this space. Now it's easier to get this guy on the team and then kind of fill in the pieces around that. So I think this is probably the best opportunity for the Sharks to move Erik Karlsson if that's what they're trying to do. And I think you'd be insane not to want to move the guy just because of the assets you can get back, and knowing that you're going through this rebuild and he's really not the guy that you need right now. He's the guy that maybe you need in a few years, which unfortunately you can keep him there for all that time, but then by the end of the contract, he's going to be 36. So, Father Time does catch us all at some point. So, I think, again, you're going to see some movement. If you're going to see movement, it's going to be at the draft or sometime during free agency. Maybe there's a guy that they're looking at, some team is looking at, they want to get, but he goes to a different team. Now they've got a hole to fill. Now they're more likely to want to go out and make that trade for that big dollar player before they filled in the rest of the roster. So again, I think, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen sometime during the draft or during that free agency period before the teams have kind of already stocked up the shelves. And kind of on that same vein of talking about Erik Karlsson, like I know Aaron had talked about GM Mike Greer and his thoughts, but we've also got Coach David Quinn, and his thoughts on Erik Karlsson. So we'll have a lot of people talking about their thoughts about Erik Karlsson, including the people in the chat, I'm sure. So why don't we go ahead and play, unless you got something else you want to say about this specifically, Aaron?
No, I mean, we're just going to keep going with it. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and hear Coach David Quinn's thoughts on not only just the Erik Karlsson staying thing, but he was also kind of talking about the Sharks record and how maybe it could have looked a little bit better. So go ahead and we'll play that one right now.
We just stunk. We stunk on the power play. We stunk on the penalty kill. We stunk 5-on-5. Our forward stunk. Our defenseman stunk. We just stunk.
That is not the clip. Accurate though, but anyway, go ahead, super producer Jason.
Well, as we've touched on a lot, your record is what it is. We weren't far off in 60 of the game, however many games that we lost, and there's a lot of data and, stuff that we do behind the scenes here that thinks, Jesus, we should have won that, just from a pure 60-minute data of where your play was, your scoring chances, your things that matter in our game. Say that our record should have been better. And obviously it's hard because the last 6 weeks are a little bit misleading because of the changes and whatnot. And I think we all, and I've talked about this with our players, we kind of have to not forget, but really focus on the first, probably through the middle of January before we started making changes, what that looked like when we weren't auditioning players and doing the things we were doing. That's just the fact. And a lot of things that a play here, a play there, and we're in a different situation where if you look at some of the other teams maybe that are in the lottery or around us in the standings, it didn't look that way. So that's why I'm optimistic. And, some of those other teams don't have Karlsson, Couture, Hurdle, Vlasic, Ferraro, guys like that are great building blocks.
But of course the question is, will you have Karlsson next year?
I sure the hell hope so. I mean, obviously, there's all that type of speculation, and I mean, he's here till he's not. I mean, this is pro sports, and after every season, you could go to any locker room, and reporters are probably asking the coach and the general manager if this guy will be here or not. And I mean, Wayne Gretzky got traded. Anybody can get traded, but listen, he's, from a coaching standpoint, he's everything you want in a player, and he was incredible in the locker room. He's great to coach, and I hope he goes nowhere.
Some big words.
Yeah.
Doesn't want him to go anywhere. He says, I sure hope so. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, I sure hope so, that he sticks around. He'd love to have him back in the lineup, obviously. See, and for me, this is, we talk about, teams wanting to tank, right? Oh, yeah, they want to tank. They should try to tank as much as, no, the players don't want that. And the coaches, as you just heard, he wants him back. Doesn't matter how good or bad the team is. He wants the guy back. So they're not there trying to tank. Now, you could argue the GM maybe by bringing guys up or down or trades or that whatever. Fine, I understand. But as far as the guys that are on the bench playing the game and whatnot, they're not interested in tanking at all. They can care what some 17-year-old kid can do for them down the road. They want right now.
Why would the coach want to lose his best player, the league's best defenseman, ran 43% of all of the goals went through this one player. If you take him out, that's really bad. It's really interesting what he said about the other stuff too, about the team and how close they were. And Darren Stevens, who does a lot of really cool Sharks tweets about stats, random stats. He turned this one. He posted this one, and I wanted to read it here. The one Sharks, this is like his last tweet too of the season. The one Sharks stat that sticks out to me from this season: they lost 33 games in which they led or were tied in the third period, which is including the overtime and shootout losses. Kudos to the coaching staff for keeping this team in games as much as that, and I mean that as a credit to them. 33 games. They were at one point winning or tied, where the game probably could have gone their way, should have gone their way, at least in half of them. Now, the Sharks ended the season with, I think it was 60 points. If you take those 33 games and you turn 20 of those into wins, that means you'd be, instead of 0-33 in those games, you're 20-13. It's a winning record, right? In those specific games, in those close games. That's a playoff team. That's assuming that's 40 points right there. 20 wins, 20 more wins out of those 33 games. You turn those into wins. That's 40 points. That gets you 100 points on the season to your 60. That is a playoff team. Winnipeg got in the playoffs with 95 points. 100 points now is pretty much the base standard to get in. So this team is not as bad as their record shows. If you look at the other teams that are at the bottom, Anaheim, Chicago, Columbus, their goal differential is horrendous. It's not even close to the Sharks. There was a really good article by Corey Massasak that came out at the end of last week going over the scenarios of how this tank job by the Sharks is amazing, because there's no way they should have been this bad, just based on all the data and exactly what David Quinn David Quinn was just talking about. When you look at the data, I think he says data, the data that is over a 60-minute game, they should have won a lot of these games. Looking at all the advanced stats, they should have won these games. They just didn't. Just simple mistakes, little things, and just the puck ended up in the back of their net, and they ended up losing the game. That's why I feel a little bit more optimistic, because if they turn those around next year, they turn those 33 games into 20 wins right there off the bat. I mean, I'm not saying that they will, but it's doable depending on what happens in the offseason, what kind of moves they make. The goaltending needs to be better. That's one thing, and I'll get into that in a little bit because Mike Greer talks specifically about the goaltending. To me, it's just like, okay, the Sharks were lucky. Yeah, fans are pissed that they won 3 games, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, because it put them out of the worst spot, but they shouldn't even be in the bottom 5. They're lucky that they're going to have a top 5 pick, most likely a top 5, top 6 pick. They probably should have been around the 12th to 15th pick. So it's imagine the beginning of the season, everyone's like, okay, they're going to be around that bubble playoff or just missing the playoffs, not even a bubble team, but it's like the worst spot you can be, because now you're picking 12th to 15th instead of top 5. The Sharks are in the top 5. It's awesome. I'm so happy. Yeah, most likely will not be Connor Bedard. I was never thinking that they were going to be able to get him in the first place. Obviously, I'd be stoked if they do. If they pull that, if their number comes up, amazing. I'm going to be doing the Erik Karlsson video, screaming around like a chicken with its head cut off, like just screaming, so excited. But I'm not expecting it at all. I don't want anyone's hopes to get up, because it's just most likely not going to happen.
See, whereas I wanted the lowest pick possible, not to get Bedard, but to get the best player possible, right? At whatever. So if you get, down at number 1, but you get leapfrogged, you still only get leapfrogged, and you still get either the second or third best player in the draft. If you're at number 4 and you get leapfrogged, you're now getting the 5th best player. I'd rather be as low as possible, not because I want Bedard, but because I want the best player that I can possibly get, period, whoever that may be, right? But I think it is great. Like, if you look at the advanced stats, and it is promising for next season that, although a few pieces here and there will be moved around, and certainly a gigantic piece in Timo Meyer is missing, and perhaps was part of why everything was so close. Maybe I guess my response to that would be you're asking them though to turn 2/3 of the losses that they had in that particular way into wins. That's a tall order. I mean,
But
if my
those
grandma had
losses,
wheels, she'd be a bicycle. You know what I'm saying?
no, no,
Like,
no. Those losses, these aren't the 6-1 blowouts. These are
No,
the
I
games
know.
where they're tied or they're winning by a goal. You lock it
Absolutely.
down with good goaltending and defense. Those are wins.
I agree with you, but they did lose those games. They fell apart. The team couldn't hold on, and it happened 33 times. Like, that's the identity of the team. And when it happens that many times, they can't hold a lead. So yeah, if we're hoping that this team will be able to kind of play the full 60 as opposed to 55 or 50 or whatever it is, right? If it happened 33 times, like, there's a big problem there. So hopefully, yeah, there's some way for them to turn, like you say, 2/3 of those around. But that is a very tall order. Still, the main point to drive, and Aaron's already done so, is that this team was in it in that many games. They shouldn't be as low as they are in the standings, and they shouldn't be able to get as good of a pick as they're going to get. So, in a weird, strange, bizarro kind of way, yeah, we are kind of lucky to be in the position that we're in, because as Aaron said, we should be picking closer to the teens in this draft. So I guess something to be happy about, Aaron.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm a glass half full rather than empty. So I just see the good in that what the Sharks have done, and I think it's there. This isn't a 60-point team. At least before the trade deadline, this was not a 60-point team. This was a closer to 80, maybe 90, 80 points on a good day. I think that they're lucky that they tanked so bad. And again, there's no way the team is, like you were saying, they're not saying let's tank so we can get this 17, 18-year-old on our team and save us. That's not how it works. So it's just, they worked hard. A lot of it was a new coaching staff that came in super late, a new GM that was hired super late, trying to turn things around and change. And we keep talking about identity, but the way this team is playing is they're relying less on skilled players and more on hardworking, grinding out players, which is exactly the kind of player that Mike Grier was when he was a player in the league. Those are Mike Grier's guys, and he's slowly accumulating more of those. I did not pull the clip, but in the Grier interview, because it was 46 minutes long, one of the quotes he had in there was, he was kind of asked like what he wants to add to the team. He wants more sandpaper and grit players because he feels that those are the ones that will fight for your team, play the right way, and when it comes to playoff time are the ones that lead the team, which I wholeheartedly agree with. So we're going to see more players. I'm not saying there's more players like these guys, but like Tkachuk, like Matthew and his brother Tkachuk, right? They are highly skilled players who have a lot of sandpaper, a lot of grit to them. More players like that would be drafted by the Sharks than not to say they wouldn't draft Connor Bedard, obviously they would, but more of a skilled, smaller player like that. I think they're going to go more bigger. They want to add size, which is also another thing he said. So this team is going to be bigger. Anyway.
So we're going to talk about Mike Grier and the exit interview that he gave. There's several sections, lots of things to talk about here. But before we get to that, Colin C28 says, if they get the first overall, where's the draft party?
Good question. Maybe we do a draft party.
I think we do.
Yeah, a draft party show.
It'd be fun.
That would be fun. A live audience.
We did a super producer Jason, if you can put in the chat, what was that brewery that we went to that time?
S27.
Yeah, there you go. S20. Maybe we can ask if we can do something over there. That'd be fun.
That would be fun. The draft is the end of June, I believe.
Yeah,
I think it's on
our
calendar.
Let's see. Do you think Debbie wants to know? Do you think Quinn is a good fit for this team?
I think so. I think part of it was the personnel. They just didn't have it this season, like in terms of being competitive and skilled enough. I think on the back end, the Sharks show that they were weaker on talking about on their defensive pairings. I think Greer's done a tremendous job overturning the prospect pool for defensemen. Again, Ryan Merkley starting the season was the number one prospect defensive wise, and he's not in the organization anymore. Thrun, I think, looked great in the small sample size of games at the end of the season. He's probably an NHL defenseman, probably, bottom pairing guy, but that's a pretty good bottom pairing guy.
He was most recently partnered with Erik Karlsson.
What was that?
He was most recently partnered with Erik Karlsson.
That was the end of the season. They see what the kid can do. But he was on the power play. He was running some of the power play stuff, and I thought he didn't look out of place. So I think I'm excited for that kid to get a full season in next year, most likely making it out of training camp. But anyway, there's a lot of hope for that back end to be a lot more depth to it, and younger, more not necessarily skilled, but defensemen that are going to stop things, but also not stone hands, and they can move the puck out of the zone and make the passes. So to me, there's hope on the back end. I think it's going to help in the long run, obviously.
Yeah, and I think that for the question of is Quinn a good fit for this team? Well, I mean, if we look at what was the biggest knock on Quinn in New York, what was the biggest knock on Quinn? Do you remember?
He wasn't good with young guys.
He wasn't good with young guys. Well, I'm telling you, we've had some young guys kind of pop in and out, and especially near the end of the season, we've had some kind of jump in there. Eklund played a little bit. We had Bordelot step in. We had Thrun, obviously. So we've had some young guys kind of come in, and they had some success. Now, the other thing to remember is, just that aside, is Quinn a good fit? Well, I mean, we just talked about that, there were 33 games that potentially could have turned into wins had they been able to close out, right? I mean, these are losses that were third period leads that evaporated. So as Aaron's saying, if you can get 2/3 of those, I mean, maybe that's a high number, but if you could turn those around, this is we're talking about a playoff team. So is is David Quinn a good coach a good fit for this group? Yeah, I think it worked out okay. It's just that they couldn't seem to close out, but yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on it. I think David Quinn is fine for this group. I'd be interested in seeing next season the guys that they bring in, especially the guys that they bring up. Again, if this is supposed to be a coach that maybe has a hard time playing the younger players, or doesn't like playing the younger players, that's kind of what the Sharks have right now in the system. These guys that are ready to kind of move up and move in. Between Eklund, Bordelot, and Thrun, as we had just said, amongst others. Maybe Gushing gets an opportunity. Who knows? So I'll be interested in seeing what he does next season. But yeah, I think he was fine with this group, and I think even though they were as low as they are in the standings, those advanced stats that Corey Masisak was talking about certainly points that he was doing just fine. So, Aaron, why don't we talk a little bit about the Mike Grier exit interview? Now, you've got a whole bunch of things here that you want to talk about. I think there's like 4 different clips. So, or actually maybe more. I don't know. But why don't you go ahead and start jumping into these? Just fire away.
Sure. First question asked again, this is a 46-minute interview. These are the things that I kind of cherry picked to put together for our show, and they are a little bit long-winded, but he has some good things to say. So coming from the GM, Mike Grier, here are the takeaways from this season alone and what his thoughts were and how they did.
I think, on the ice, I think it was a little bit disappointing. I thought we were, in pre-deadline, I thought we were, a better team than our record showed, but, the results weren't there. So, but I think the main thing I was really happy with the style of play that was implemented in the compete level of the group. I thought guys showed up and worked every day at practice, and in the games we competed hard pretty much every night. So, I think that was the main thing. And I think one of the things we set out to do was kind of start building the foundation of what type of culture and standard we want here with the Sharks. And I think the guys and the coaches did a good job of kind of laying the early bricks down of that foundation.
There you go. I mean, I don't disagree. I think if you look at the 2 seasons before this season, the Sharks were bad and they were not fun to watch. I think this season was more entertaining because they were close in so many games. It really could have gone a lot more the Sharks' way. So to me, they played harder. They played for each other. They stood up for each other. Bringing in some of these guys like Lorentz and Kudin before he got hurt, and some other guys that were very hardworking guys. Nico Sturm, another one, just great guys. That third and fourth line, those guys worked their tails off every night. They practically never took a night off. So very happy with a lot of those guys, and happy with what Greer did to this lineup. And I think it's going to carry into next year, hopefully with some healthier guys.
Dark and Donkey saying Greer didn't even get a top prospect for Timo. Disappointing what the Sharks got back. Yes, but let's remember he also got a first overall, and I believe there's a conditional, right, on another first.
It's a second for next season, and if the Devils get to the conference finals with Meyer playing in 50% of the games in the playoffs, then it turns into a first round pick next year.
So we did get some good assets, some picks out of that. On top of, let's not forget Mukwadulin and Ahoychuk, which both of those guys are projecting pretty good right now. So I'd be more than happy if those two turn into something on top of the fact that we've got those picks to work with. Now, we don't have to take those picks for what they are. We can always use those, trade them up, get a better pick out of it as well. So it's just assets, things that Mike Greer can work with. I'm not totally disappointed in the Timo trade. I think that there wasn't a big recognizable name attached to it on the return, and that's what people didn't like about that. So
exactly,
we'll see. I think things like this, it usually takes a little bit of time to shake out to really kind of get that feel of who won the trade, although people want to say it like right away. But I think Greer did okay. I think Timo was obviously the better player out of everybody, but I think that the return wasn't as bad as people were making it out to be. But I do like in his takeaways for the year response that he had talked about we're playing the game the right way. I mean, I sure hope so, because the guys that he brought in were all the guys that he wanted to play a certain way, and they had a certain style, and it's that hardworking, gritty style that he's looking to get more of those players. And maybe more of them isn't the right move. Maybe it's just the right ones, maybe higher quality grit guys than the ones that we ended up getting. I think, Svechnikov did okay. Cunnin, unfortunately, was injured for the majority of the year. And then other guys, Gadjevich, obviously, we've seen what he can do and what he brings. But there's some other guys that were in there that maybe could have played a lot better. Oscar Lindblom, certainly one of those guys. Big body, he's one of those guys that can certainly hit, but he just wasn't producing offensively the way that they were hoping he was going to rebound with his career. So maybe just higher quality grit guys is the right thing there. But we'll see what he wants to do with that. Now, Aaron, he also, as you alluded to earlier, talked a little bit about Erik Karlsson and perhaps the future therein. So go ahead and set this clip up, or these clips maybe.
These are two clips, two different questions at different points of this 46-minute interview. He was asked about Erik Karlsson and if he's going to get traded. And then there was another question kind of similar on how his play. And the second follow-up question is more of did his value kind of increase after this season? And is the market kind of like hotter for Erik Karlsson than it was before the season? So here's a couple minutes of Mike Greer talking about Erik Karlsson and his future with the San Jose Sharks.
He had a tremendous season, and I think we all know it. And I think it was kind of a special year to be around, and he carried a lot of play for us as for our team, and is an important player. So it's for him and I talked, and it's tough to put a timeline on any of this stuff, how quickly you can turn it around. There's a lot of unknowns and circumstance that goes into it. So, I think he and I both agreed that things are kind of moving in the right direction, and things like that. Well, whether everything matches up with the timeline of where he's at in his career, I don't know. It's hard for me to say 100% for sure one way or the other. but he's been great. I think I've enjoyed working with him. Quinny's enjoyed working with him. So, hopefully he'll be back, but we'll have to see, as he takes some time away to think about it and we get into down the road in the off season, what else might pop up as far as, teams' interest in him. And then we'll kind of, as we've done for the last kind of 4 months, we'll, if there's interest in him, we'll listen and see if it makes sense. And if something does come up, we'll take it, Erik. But, as it stands right now, he's a big piece of our team. And, that's how we're going to take and head into the off season with that. Yeah. I mean, I think it'll definitely be a balance. I think it's not all about cap space. Sure, it'd be great for us to gain cap space, but you're also looking at a 100-point right shot D who was pretty dominating and still young. So it's not someone we're not looking just to give him away just to get cap space. So it'll definitely be a balance. I think we have an idea of what we think what he's worth and what we should get in return. And we'll just kind of leave it at that. I think it'll, like any deal, it's kind of be give and take on both sides, and the balance of, yes, getting some cap relief, but also getting what we feel is a good return for him.
Going back to what Karlsson was saying in his interview, same. It's not really like, I don't think it's black or white of if he's going to be traded or not. I think it's just open-ended. Is it going to happen if it's right for the team, if it's right for Karlsson, then yes, he'll get traded. If not, then he won't. So they obviously would love him to stay here in San Jose. A right-handed shot, as he said, a right-handed shot defenseman scored 100 points. Those are kind of rare to come by. There's not very many in the league. In fact, there are none other ones in the league. So it's funny at the end, he said he's very young still. Like, I'm sure Greer thinks he's very, very young at 32. I'm not saying he's old, but he's on the other end of being young. So funny that he threw it in there. But what do you think about his thoughts on Karlsson?
What do I think about his thoughts on Karlsson? Yeah, I mean, look, if he's got a 100-point right shot defenseman who's got, was it 3 or 4 more years? I can't remember now. I think it's 4 more years.
Four more seasons.
He has a team that he's currently rebuilding. Call it what you want. Retool, rebuild, whatever. It doesn't matter. There is no reason, no need, as Noah Claxton said here. And I'm just going to quote Noah Claxton right now. The perfect mindset. No need to sell him low for cap reasons. It's not like we need the cap space to sign someone else. 100%. We don't need $11.5 million to sign somebody else who can do what he can do. I mean, maybe it gets you some more lower quality players to fill out your roster. These grinder types that he's talking about, these sandpaper type guys. Like, maybe it helps you pull those in, but I just don't really feel the need to move him specifically to have the cap space to bring in what? Nobody's going to want to, no high dollar UFA is going to want to come and play here for the same reason that Erik Karlsson would want to leave so that he can go win somewhere. Why would you be a high dollar UFA coming to the Sharks thinking that, oh, this is going to be the place that I'm going to win? You wouldn't. So honestly, right now, I just don't see it. I don't see there's really the need to have the cap space. Now, we've removed some other players, right? And I have a feeling we're going to see other players get moved too. Like, what's his name? Logan Couture was one of the guys in the comments saying he's probably going to get moved. Well, that's another good chunk of cash that's going to be coming off those books. So, and the guys that we have, buyouts and salary retention, those will be coming off soon enough as well. I don't think we need the cap space. So if you're not going to give me what the guy's worth, I'll keep him. It doesn't matter if he has a no trade clause or whatever. I'll keep the guy. That's fine. So I'm with Mike Greer here on this one. I like what he has to say. And it sends a message to other teams. You're not just going to take advantage of me because he makes a lot of money and because he's 32 years old. The man just had a 100-point season, and he's a right-handed defenseman. Pay up. I think that's totally fine to have that mentality and that attitude. Now, I did see something pop up on the screen. However, I was in the middle of my rant, and I missed it. So, Super Producer Jason, if you could highlight that one more time, and I will read it. Anthony Sanchez says, Greer will not sign a top UFA because honestly, no UFA will want to come to San Jose. UFA signing will be a goaltender only. You know what? I agree that maybe a decent enough goaltender UFA might want to come. If there are other teams that already have it locked down, he doesn't have the opportunity to play. Maybe there's a guy that say, hey, I'm pretty good, but I don't want to be anybody's backup. You know what I'm saying? So maybe he sees that opportunity and he comes in. I don't know. And again, like you said, Aaron, maybe a UFA is going to see that ball drop and go, you know what? Maybe I'll start my career in San Jose. Who knows? What do you think?
Well, going back a little bit, what you're saying, trading him for cap space. If they were to trade him, they had all that cap space, they wouldn't be signing UFAs. They would be using it like Arizona uses it and probably taking on bad contracts to get more prospects and picks. I mean, not necessarily as much as Arizona uses it, but I could see him pulling in one or two of the $6-7 million contracts or a $5 million contract that's just bad for another couple of years, just to bury him, keep the cap hit, and have a lot of prospects and or picks in return. So that's what I would see them doing with it. Now, goalie free agents, funny you should say, because there are not many good ones on the free agent list. Going into UFA this upcoming summer, the top one based on the current cap hit that they have, which isn't what they would sign for, but it's just a way of measuring. Jonathan Quick, Varlamov, Ben Bishop, Frederick Anderson, Jonathan Bernier, Cam Talbot, Tristan Jarry, Anton Hubodin, Alex Nedeljkovic, Mackenzie Blackwood. Those are just the top 10. None of those are the answer in goal. I don't even feel like short term. Like, to me, that would be another James Reimer, right? Who's also on this list. So it would be switching out James Reimer for one of those guys. And I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. I think it's a priority for Greer to get either a prospect or somebody, and then just roll with Kakinen and that other person. But interesting, we're getting into that too. Do you have any more thoughts? Because I have another clip here.
Is it a clip that from Karlsson, or is this clip rolling to the goaltenders?
This is going right into the goaltenders.
Beautiful segue. I was going to do it, but go ahead, fire away.
All right, here is Mike Greer on his thoughts on the goaltending. I believe the question was asked about specifically James Reimer and if he's going to be signed again for next season. So here are his thoughts on the goaltending tandem of the Sharks.
Well, I think the goaltending, I'm talking to both of them. I'm sure it wasn't great, and I think they both were kind of disappointed with their play this year. But at the same time, there's a lot of other things that go into it. People kind of just look at the numbers that weren't great and kind of put a lot of the blame on just the goalies. But there's a lot of other factors that go into it. The mistakes and breakdowns we had and things like that, where they were seeing some high danger chances, a lot of high danger chances every night. So it's not just all on them. It's, as a group, we got to be better. We got to be a better defensive unit. I think as far as Capo goes, I think his season was really, really up and down. I don't think he ever really found his footing. I think he was struggling with some of the things that, Spearsy and Nabby were asking to change and do differently. I think he kind of eventually, once, the results weren't what he wanted, I think he kind of relented and was open to changing a little bit more. And I think he had a really good stretch of hockey there in February where he was really solid, and you can see the traits that he has, the size, the athleticism. I think there's some good tools and traits there for him. And I think he's still, open to changing more and, talking with him yesterday, I think he's really willing to and open to committing. He's going to put in probably more work than he's ever done in any prior off season to try and change his game and be ready for the season. I think he's going to be here early. He's going to go see a different goaltending coach, and I think he's really trying to make him do everything necessary to make himself a more consistent and better goalie. So, from my standpoint, that was something that was really good to hear. Reims, I think Reims, like he said, I'm sure he probably told you guys, I think he was probably disappointed with the season overall, but I thought he was excellent to start the year. And, he had a little back issue, and then from there it was, ups and downs. But so we'll see what happens with him in the off season, if we bring him back or not. I would, if I'm being honest, I would say, we probably won't bring back have the same goalie tandem as we had this year. So
probably won't bring back the same goalie tandem. Now, there's two ways to read into that.
There's only one goalie.
He just got done saying, I don't know if we're going to bring him back. He said it's up in the air a little bit. So maybe they don't bring him back and they stay with Kakinen, or maybe they're just not at all happy with Kakinen and both of them are gone. You don't think so?
I think for me, Kakinen's younger, obviously. He's how old is he, 26? To me, it sounds like Kakinen is doing everything in his power to get better. I'm not saying that Reimer's not, but he's looking at, okay, I have two goaltending coaches telling me to change something because it's not working, and I'm willing to open, and he's coachable. He's being very coachable and open to changing the way he plays his game and getting better. I think he has more potential. I think at 26 for goalies, that's still not even hitting your prime. I think he's got until about 28, 29 for prime for goalies. So he's still working his way up. He's signed to a very team-friendly contract at only $2.7 million. So I think he is there. He's going to be there. And obviously James Reimer is not going to be with the Sharks. I think it's going to be somebody else. And I have a feeling Greer is going to be pushing to trade for either a high-end prospect goalie, or maybe taking on a semi-bad contract of a goalie who needs a change of scenery. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. But James Reimer, I don't believe will be signed. Obviously, James Reimer is not going to be signed by the Sharks. They kind of pushed a little bit too after. I didn't get it in the clip, but they pushed about it, and he wouldn't say no outright, but it was a no.
I don't see the reason to bring back James Reimer, quite frankly. I mean, from Reimer's standpoint, I don't see the reason why he would want to come back in the first place. It's not because, the Sharks are such a bad team. But if he knows what the Sharks are, what the record has been, how they've done the past few seasons, he knows all this stuff about the Sharks. He knows they're not going to be playoff bound. The man wants to go out and win just like Erik Karlsson does. So it doesn't make sense for him as a UFA to even want to re-sign in San Jose. For those reasons. I'm sure he loves the area and everything else, has no problem with the team in the front office. I'm sure he loves all of that. But I don't think that it makes any sense for him to say, yeah, I'm going to come back to San Jose. For that reason, I think you're not going to see him. Forget about Mike Greer. I just don't think Reimer's going to want to be back there. He's going to want to go to some team, like we said, that, we wish we had a better backup. It bit us in the playoffs. There's a UFA, James Reimer. Let's make him an offer. I think that's probably what we're going to see more than anything else. And he's going to go someplace where he has an opportunity to win. That's what I think will happen. As far as goalies, the other goalie tandem, I don't know that Makiniemi or Strauss-Mann are ready for the show. So if Kakinen's going to be there and Kakinen's willing to listen to the goaltending coaches and they're going to revamp his style and everything else, obviously another reason James Reimer wouldn't be here. He's not going to revamp anything. The man's set in stone the way he plays goaltending. If they didn't like it, then then they don't have to sign him again. So no big deal there. But I think that I don't know that our AHL guys are ready to make that jump yet. So absolutely, I think you're right. I think we're probably looking at some trade involving on the other end coming back a high level prospect goaltender. Hopefully somebody who can either tear it up in the AHL or just be a very, very solid backup until they're ready for full-time duty. That would be kind of the best case scenario, I think, when it comes to the goaltending situation. Other than, trading Capo, I don't think you're going to get that much back for Capo anyway right now. Maybe some of the teams sees the potential, but I don't think his value is very high right now. So, yeah, you're probably right. Probably just kind of hang on to the guy and see where the team goes with him next season. Go through that training, off-season training, go through the camps and whatnot. Listen to your goalie coaches, see what they have to tell you, and hopefully you can improve and do better for the next season. So that's kind of what I think about the goaltending situation. We've got a lot going on there, but as a lot of them have said too, and a lot of people in the chat are saying as well, a lot of it has to do with not just the goaltending, but the team that's in front of it, the defensive unit, not just the pair of defensemen, but that 5-man unit, keeping pucks out of the high danger areas. So I'm sure there'll be improvements there as well. Aaron, what are you smiling about?
I was just thinking, do you know, you're not really paying attention to the playoffs right now, but the Florida Panthers are playing Boston Bruins. Of course, Bruins are just going to destroy them. Do you know who the goaltender is for the Florida Panthers?
Oh, God.
No?
Go ahead.
Like on his name. Sergey.
Bobrovsky. I knew it.
Right?
Yeah.
$10 million for another 3 years.
Yeah.
Who started the game?
Who started the game? Not him.
Nope.
Oh, boy.
Their other goalie they have signed, Spencer Knight, is in the substance abuse program at 21 years old. Scary. He signed an extension for the next 3 years at $4.5 million. That's $14.5 million for the next 3 seasons to 2 guys. Your goal,
not just to 2 guys, but to one position that you can only play one of them at a time.
Exactly. I think one of them will be moved because Alex Leon is the one who's called up on an emergency loan and is starting for the Florida Panthers in the playoffs because he ended the season playing well for them. So I'm thinking, what if the Sharks were to trade Vlasic for Bobrovsky, take on that extra $3 million? Now they have Bobrovsky and Kakinen. I'm just spitballing. Just like there are goalies out there that could be moved. And to me, obviously, I wouldn't want to pay a goalie $10 million. I think that's insane. But if they were to, what if they just retain some of that salary? Or they just, whatever, call it a wash. Because then that gets rid of Vlasic off of the defensive end, frees up that space. Brings in a goalie who has a couple Vezina trophies in this cabinet. It would be a good transition period for. Plus, he's I believe he's Russian, Bobrovsky.
I'm sorry. Are you trying to talk up Bobrovsky? Because traditionally, that is not what you've been doing.
I know. I don't think Bobrovsky would win a cup for the Sharks, but I think he would bring stability to the Sharks in the back end.
$10 million, he better. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about having a $10 million goaltender and an $11.5 million defenseman, offensive defenseman. That's not going to help your goaltender.
Well, what if he's moved? Whatever.
Anyway, that's true.
Just throwing that out there randomly.
Sure.
Just throwing it. Sorry. Just showing like there are ways that the Sharks could get a goaltender because I don't think signing a UFA is going to happen for the goaltending position. There's just nobody out there. All right. Anything else? Are we going to move on to the last clip I have?
This is the last thing here that Mike Greer was talking about, and it's about Peterson and Gregor. So go ahead and set this up.
So the question was asked about pending UFAs and if they played well enough to get a contract. And of course, he's not going to say yes, we offered him or anything, and we're waiting for an answer. So this is Mike Greer's thoughts on both Peterson and fan favorite Noah Gregor.
I think they both did play well down the stretch. I think Petey was, a pleasant surprise. I think he did a good job in kind of took advantage of his opportunity, which was nice to see. Noah had an up and down season. He didn't, to start the season, he didn't really play well. And then another guy, I think, who lost his confidence and was trying to kind of figure out his role here and how to play and how we wanted him to play and how we thought he needs to play to be effective. He played down the stretch. He played a little bit better. So, he's got a lot of attributes you're looking for in NHL players with his size and speed, and he can shoot the puck. So, it was a good finish to the season for him. And both those guys are guys that kind of aren't too dissimilar from, our UFAs. We gotta sit down and go through the roster with the coaches and the scouting staff and make some decisions on players. So I think they're both in the same bucket.
Noah Claxton says Noah Gregor's point streak to end the season is better than Karlsson's 100 points. Just because he has the same first name as you doesn't mean.
Yeah. Have you read all the comments on our social media?
Yeah, I read the majority of them. They're pretty good. And we'll get there.
So many people screaming louder when Noah Gregor scored his 10th goal than anything else for the season.
Aaron, anything to add thoughts wise on Peterson and Gregor? Peterson's actually stepped up and played extremely well for a short stint here in San Jose.
Yeah, he was like you said, a pleasant surprise. I don't think any of the staff that had made that trade were expecting anything like that. And I was just looking it up. He had 8 points in his last. How many games did he play for the Sharks? I'll pull it up right now. But he had he played. That was not with the Sharks. So he had a couple games before he got traded. But in 10 games, he had 8 points with the Sharks. That's pretty darn good. Not bad for a guy who I don't even think was expecting to even play in the NHL at this point, probably in the AHL and working his way up. But he was a pleasant surprise, and that's good for him. So like Greer said, he took advantage of his situation and played well, showing that he does belong in the NHL. So maybe not with the Sharks. Maybe he goes and signs somewhere else, but the Sharks have something there at least. So that created an asset for them to possibly move. But yeah, Nick just wanted to ask, did Aaron buy the jersey? Should I spoil it or no?
No. We're getting there. I said we're getting there. We're almost
stringing
there.
along.
But as far as Jacob Peterson goes, this season with the Texas Stars, the AHL, he was a 26-point player in 44 games played. That was 13 goals, 13 assists, split right down the middle. And then he moved on from there after the trade with the Barracuda, had 8 games there, 1 goal, 5 assists for 6 points. And then when he came over to the Sharks, he had 11 games played, 2 goals, 6 assists for 8 points. So pretty solid player so far, actually, for the Sharks. I was not expecting 8 points in 11 games, just like something else that I wasn't expecting that we'll be talking about a little bit later on. But yeah, a pleasant surprise. Now, this is one of those guys that maybe the pickup didn't really make a whole lot of sense at first, right? You kind of go, why are we making this? And it was Reedy for Peterson, right? Why? They obviously saw something that we didn't see. So, again, just a real pleasant surprise from Jacob Peterson. And as far as Noah Gregor's concerned, he is what he is in my eyes still. I don't care what anyone says.
Going back to Peterson, does that give you a little bit more faith in the I'd say like the staff, right? Like Mike Grier and his staff in evaluating talent from other teams that are looking to move some of these guys, and they target, maybe they said, hey, Scott Reedy, I can't remember if he asked for the trade. I think they were trying to do a favor, like getting him into a new organization, kind of a fresh start. But I think Peterson was kind of in the same boat in that he needed a fresh start somewhere else. And am I correct that they were both first rounders? Late first round? Oh, no, that's never mind. That was the swap with Ryan Merkley. He was the first round pick and who they traded to Colorado for.
Yeah. Wait, what was the return for Ryan Merkley again?
Oh, God.
trying to remember.
Put me on the spot here.
Regardless, look, Colorado has Ryan Merkley. He's got them in the AHL system, and there was an article recently that Ryan Merkley was talking with, I think it was Shang, and he was saying that, you know, part of that's on the organization, part of that's on me. I wasn't really being used the way that I was supposed to be used. Like, no, you're supposed to be a defenseman, and if all you can do is move the puck, but you get scored on repeatedly and you have a bad temper about it, then you're not doing what you're supposed to be.
He got
right?
traded to Colorado. He got traded with Matt Nieto to Colorado for Martin Kaut and Jacob McDonald, both of who were in the Sharks lineup, I believe.
There you go. Now, granted, the Sharks lineup is a little bit easier to get onto than most, but even Ryan Merkley wasn't able to step into the Sharks lineup, so maybe that tells you a little bit of something about that as well.
McDonald got some good playing time at the end there, though.
Who?
Jacob
McDonald.
McDonald.
McDonald got a lot of playing time. Now, he was playing both forward and defense. It's incredible that he's able to do that. Obviously, not at the same level that, say, maybe a Brent Burns would be able to, but to have the skill set to be able to play both positions at this level, and the coaching staff actually puts you in those positions, there's a lot of trust there. So absolutely, McDonald, my hat's off to that guy right there, and just a lot of respect for what he's able to do. So very good stuff. Aaron, are we done with the exit interview stuff? Good. Let's do the end of season stats. There was a few things here that maybe surprised you a little bit.
Yeah, I was looking at the finalized team stats, and there were 8 10-goal scorers, 10-plus goal scorers, 8 double-digit goal scorers on the Sharks. I was a little shocked at. Do you think
I
you
thought
can
there were
name
going to be 7?
You think you can name them?
No, I know that I can't.
So Couture, obviously after Meyer was gone, led the team with 27 goals. Karlsson 25, Hertl 22, Barabanov, who was injured towards the end, 15, LeBanc 15. He kind of came on towards the end. Nico Sturm slowed down, but he had 14 on the year. I think that's great for him. Steve Lorentz got 10 goals, and your best friend, Noah Gregor, got 10 goals. So if you add back Timo Meyer, that's nine players that would have had double digits in goals. So the Sharks, not, again, going back to what I said in the very beginning of the show, not of the bottom teams, they're not that bad. They were scoring goals. They were doing things that a mid-level team would be doing. They just happened to be garbage in the standings. So great year to be a garbage in the standings. Can you imagine if this was last year's draft? Like, those guys, there's not really a lot of standouts there.
Yeah.
So I'm happy it happened this year, not last year.
Nice. Now you've got a question posed here, and I feel like it's just a jab.
No. Like, looking at the roster, just overall, I'm not talking about points or goal scoring or anything. Who is the player that was the biggest surprise to you that you weren't expecting before the season started?
We just stunk.
Oh man. Obviously there was a bit of a surprise, I'll say, at the end of the season there, but Luke kind of garbage collector, nice. But you know, I was I don't want to say I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised, I guess. But this was, having Erik Karlsson play those 82. That, for me, turned out to be a pretty big surprise. Now, I was optimistic at the beginning of the season saying he's going to get more than 70. But for him to have gone and played every game, that was a pretty big surprise for me. On top of that, now I know how good Erik Karlsson is. We'll all remember that stretch of just a handful. It was like 14 games. He got like 20-something points. I know what the guy's capable of. But to see him do it, to see him hit over 100 points, to see the gap between him and every other defenseman in the league, and just what the man's capable of. You've seen the types of moves that he can make. Forget stats, just watch the player, right? And you see what the guy's capable of. But I don't know. Every time I watch him, there's just something he does that's a little bit different. It's just, again, it's a little bit surprising if we're going with the theme of the question here. So, I mean, maybe it's cliche because this season he's been the best player, obviously, but I still think that was a bit of a surprise for me, having him play all the games, having him have the amazing season that he had. and maybe even that he didn't get traded in the midst of all of that. Because I mean, he was by the trade deadline, it was very clear this man is just on a tear this season, and anybody who picks this guy up is going to be very happy for it. Forget his age, right? But nobody went for it. Cool, I get it. Or maybe nobody could afford it. Cool, I get it. But I would have to say for me, that's probably been the biggest surprise of the season, that Erik Karlsson was able to do what what most of us knew he's capable of doing, but we actually got to see it firsthand.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
That's a good one. For me, El Capitan, Logan Couture, getting only the second time in his career playing in full 82 game season. He's had one other time, and he actually literally matched his output of 27 goals and 40 assists for 67 points, which also happens to be his second best point season in his career. He's hit 70 points once, and that was in the 18-19 season. So for Logan Couture, this was almost a career year for him. Goal wise, he's hit 30 goals a handful of times, but points wise, he's never topped 70 and he got to 67. Or I mean, he's never gone past 70, but he got 67. I think that's good for him. I don't remember I don't know if you remember this, but Logan Couture had some major concussion issues before he got to the NHL level when he was in the what team was it? He was in the OHL, Ottawa.
Oshawa Generals. No.
Oshawa. Was it Oshawa? No, it wasn't Oshawa.
67s. The Ottawa 67s.
Ottawa 67s. He had some major concussion issues. And when he was drafted, he was expected to be a captain at some point. Like, that was his pedigree. A good leader, does everything, very good two-way player, but also very offensive. And he was a first-round pick, 9th overall in 2007. So he had some concussion issues and could never really stay healthy, and that was a big knock on him. So good for him to come in and play just like Karlsson, getting a full 82 games. And is that going to help his trade value down the road? Yes. I still think Couture is a very good two-way forward. He's going to be a hell of a third line center on a very good team. Still a good second line center on a very good team. And in the playoffs, always steps up a notch. So for me, that was a pleasant surprise, because I'm almost always expecting him to miss more games than even Karlsson at this point, or miss some games, maybe not as many, because he doesn't get as heavily injured as Karlsson has in the past. But glad that he was able to be a leader and be able to stay healthy. That made me happy and pleasant surprise.
Anthony Sanchez, kind of echoing something you said earlier, Trey Couture, the best value right now. And yeah, absolutely. I think the season that he's had this season kind of echoes, what the man's capable of. And certainly he does an amazing job stepping up during playoff time. I know a lot of people have a hard time with the C on his chest, but I mean, the man is a leader. He's been doing this for a long enough time now in the NHL. He was a captain with the 67s, and he knows how to lead. It's carried over. I think other people may disagree. That's fine. But by all accounts, the people in that locker room certainly is a good leader for the group. So, yeah, absolutely. It'd be very interesting to see if he does get traded and what comes back, because I feel like, again, that two-way player, that really solid, as you said, third line center on a very good team with leadership qualities, being able to take those guys that maybe are filling in on that third line, or even on the fourth line, that he can kind of take under his wing, kind of maybe like that Nick Bonino type of player, right? So I think he's definitely got his trade value. But we want to pose the question out to you guys as well, and that will be our roll call question for tonight. Where are you watching us from, and which Shark was the biggest surprise for you this season? Do you think we're going to have kind of more of the same? You think people are going to feel that it's mostly Erik Karlsson, mostly maybe say, like you said, Logan Couture, or do you think everyone's just going to troll me and say Noah Gregor?
Probably. But just to comment on the question, the biggest surprise is in like the biggest pleasant surprise, not biggest surprise of like disappointment of the season.
Yeah, we thought Oscar Lindblom was going to be good.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of a bummer. I thought he was going to do a little bit better, but yeah. So give us your biggest pleasant surprise for the season.
While they're typing that in, let's take a look over here at Scott K's comment, because Peter St. John's just said, well said, Scott. So I want to see what he says. He says, thank you, Paul, Aaron, and Jason, for the wonderful and fun community that you've created. We all enjoy the live streams and San Jose Sharks Talks 100. Lots of love and respect to all my fellow fans. Hey, thank you so much for that, Scott. We do appreciate it. It's why we do this, man. We just enjoy the community. We enjoy having the conversations with you guys. This is as much for us kind of to decompress as it is for you. So, there's a lot of stuff this season and then the past few seasons. It helps to kind of talk it out and get it off our chest. I know Debbie, who watches the show frequently, she went to bed about 20 minutes ago, but she's that type too, where she's, hey man, thanks for kind of being there to just say it so that we can kind of all listen and give our thoughts and everything else. So I do appreciate the comment. Thank you so much for that. Anything to add, Aaron?
No, thanks. This is what makes it fun is interacting with everybody on here in the chat, and it's a friendly environment as well, which is absolutely fun. I like that a lot.
Peter St. John just came up with the correct answer, and I think we were all wrong. Nico Sturm.
That was going to be number 2 for me, is Nico Sturm.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe I forgot. Yeah, Nico Sturm for me, again, it goes beyond points. The way the man plays, the way he plays the game, that was a breath of fresh air. And I think the type of player that Mike Grier it really, really wants on this team. If he's going to bring more Nico Sturms into the lineup, I am 100% okay with that. That is just someone who puts his head down, works hard, doesn't care what the score is. He's just going out there to do it the right way every single time. So I'm more than happy with the way Nico Sturm has played. And yes, for me, not knowing Nico Sturm that well, having not really watched Colorado much, obviously, seeing him come in, the impact that he had on the team, on the ice, off the ice with the media, that was certainly a very pleasant surprise. So very nice pick up there. Aaron. Good?
Good. Yeah.
Oh, Nick says he's back on U.S. soil. EK 101.
Nick was at the Calgary and Edmonton games to end the Sharks season, so he was in Canada.
Yes.
Yeah. So now
absolutely.
He's back in the Bay, I think.
Lendy once again just wants to say RIP to Braun's career. Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's see. Looking back at some preseason predictions, Aaron.
Yeah.
Why don't you
sure.
We got again. I know what you guys are thinking. We'll get there. Just hold on. Okay. Go ahead, Aaron. Go ahead.
We'll go through this kind of quickly. I pulled out 3 different clips from the very beginning of the season, what we were going to predict. One of them was if Eklund was going to play with the Sharks, because this time at the beginning of the season, we weren't sure. He was on the roster that went over to the Czech Republic, but he did not play and did not make the roster. So here were my thoughts before they even left for that trip on if Eklund was going to play with the Sharks.
Where are you on the Eklund should or should not play in the NHL this season train?
Where do I think, or what do I think the Sharks are going to do?
Give me both. Yeah. What do you think should happen? What do you think will happen?
I think he will play, but I don't think it's going to be all or nothing. It's not going to be. He's going to be on the Sharks and he's going to stay here all year. I think he's going to bounce between the two, and the coaches are going to say, "Hey, we need you to go to the Barracuda and work on this, this, and this. Show us you can do that, and come back." And he'll be gone for 2 weeks, and then he'll come back. Or if there's an injury to Barabanov, somebody in the top 6, he's going to be the first guy called up. So I think it's going to be a lot of bouncing back and forth. I don't think he's going to be, again, all or nothing. And they're not going to do what they did last year where they sent him. I mean, they're not going to send him back to Sweden, but you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to send him to the Barracuda and say, you're there all year. It's not going to happen. Yeah. So I think he'll probably get, if there's no injuries, I would say under 40 games. He would play less than half the season, probably 20. And then when you get towards the end of the season or after the trade deadline and they're out of the playoffs and they trade away their players, then they're going to start throwing in these guys to play like they did last year and the year before that. They want to see what they can do and give them NHL experience. So it's kind of a harder question to answer. I just don't think he's going to be consistently on the Sharks all season. I think I'll take that as a win. Yeah,
it's a hit.
I said less than half, maybe 20 games, and he ended up playing 8. Now, I did not know that his contract would slide a year if he was under 10. If I knew that, I would have said he would have played under 10. Unless there were injuries or trades or whatever else. I don't know. I'd lean more toward. I wouldn't say it's a full-on win, but I wasn't completely wrong.
I would say not completely wrong. Yeah, not bad. Moving on, predictions on the division.
This was a big miss.
This might have been a big miss. What do you have here?
This is a big miss. This is you asked me on a whim. This is again before the season started. What I thought the Pacific Division would look like and who was going to win. So here are my thoughts on the division. I think a lot of people are picking Vegas to go back into the playoffs, and I'm going to pick them to not make the playoffs because I just think Mark Stone's back is messed up. He's not going to be able to play a full season. They had to trade Pacioretty, so he's gone. Jack Eichel, who knows if he's going to be able to play a full season and be effective. Their goaltending, Leonard's out all season, so they have Thompson and Aiden Hill as their goalies. Like, come on. So I don't think they're as strong as people assume that they are.
Yeah.
A lot of people are also picking Seattle to be over the Sharks in the standings, and I'm not quite so sure about that as well. They got too many. Yes, they added some good players and obviously some very high-skilled rookies, but I still don't think they're going to get better than the Sharks this season. They'll be close to them, but and I also don't think the Sharks will be in the basement of the division. Not that I don't want them to be, because I do want them to get a high pick, but I don't think they'll be down there. So, I mean, I'm not quite giving you everything, but LA and Anaheim, I think, will be vying for that third spot kind of in the division. And yeah, there you go. Calgary and Edmonton will be up there. I don't think Vancouver's is strong. They're better, but I think it'll come down to Calgary and Edmonton, and then Anaheim and LA, possibly Vancouver. Those three going to go for those third spots. Not 100% wrong. I didn't go 0 for 7, but Vegas, I was right about Mark Stone. He's played less than half the season because his back was messed up.
His back was messed up, and it's perfectly fine now that playoffs are here. Yay!
Yeah,
miracle on ice, Aaron.
They beat out Edmonton by 2 points for the division. Edmonton was up there. I did not see McDavid having 150 plus point season.
Yeah. How about Anaheim vying for that second or third spot there, bud?
Well, I think Anaheim should have been a little bit better than they were too, but they were pretty bad. But LA got in the third
for the
spot.
Second or third overall pick, maybe.
LA got the third spot, so I was right on that. Seattle, very much changed. Calgary, I thought was better than Seattle, but I was wrong. I feel like Calgary is a better built playoff team than Seattle. But
sorry, Noah Claxton says only 70% wrong.
Yeah, here you go.
That's great.
Yeah. I wasn't prepared for that question when you asked me to, so I just was like, look at the standings and just off of the top of my head.
Sometimes the heart it knows. This is just not one of those times apparently. But 70% didn't know. That's okay. It's okay.
Anyway.
Vlasic's resurgence, however, that was another topic.
This is the last one I have here. The last clip I have from beginning of the season. I think we both said that Vlasic would have a resurgence here for this year. So here's our clip of what we said.
Well, one guy that some of the fans think ought to play in the ECHL, Marc-Edouard Vlasic. Honestly, this season, though, I think, and you said it before, apparently I don't remember saying this, but I think this is going to be a resurgent season for him. I think he's going to look a lot better. He's got, a head coach that kind of rewards the hard work, right? And him being a veteran, him trying to work hard out there. I think he's going to have a bit of a bounce back here. And miraculously, you had called out that you think he's going to be kind of more of the top 4 20-minute a game guy. And lo and behold, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Sure. In the first game, he had exactly 20 minutes and 0 seconds. I said, because I think last year he was down to about 12, 13 minutes a night. He was kind of, I wouldn't say he's in the doghouse, but he was on that third pairing, and so he got scratched last year. I'm not saying it wasn't warranted. He was not playing very well, but I feel like this year he's in a much better headspace. He's ready. He's got a new coaching staff. He's got a new GM. They probably sat down and talked to him, see where his game's at. I think he's not going to be what he used to be. He's too old for that, but I think he's a very serviceable defenseman. I think he could stay in that top 4 in the next year or two, depending on if the Sharks bring anyone else in. But I thought he looked pretty decent, and he didn't look like a liability. In fact, I said all that stuff, and just from, I guess, the eye test of watching him in the last couple of games, I was like, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with him out there. And Corey Masisak earlier today had said that he was leading the team in like Corsi and everything else, and he was also up against the hardest forward line, the best forward line of Nashville. So the Vlasic of old at least showed up for those last 2 games where he was shutting down the top forward lines, doing a great job, and the team was actually better on the ice. When he was on the ice, the Sharks were playing better than when he wasn't on the ice. So there you go. There's some stats to back up what I was thinking. That sounded pretty sick there. Yeah, I'll take that as a win. Yeah, that's a win. I thought you think about last season, how much of a punching bag was Marc-Edouard Vlasic by the fans compared to this year? I don't feel like there was as much. I mean, there's always some, but not nearly as much as before.
You would hear after every game how Marc-Edouard Vlasic needs to be traded, but can't because he's untradeable. And this season, honestly, you said there's not much. That there's a little bit here and there. I don't remember hearing a peep, to be honest with you. I don't remember hearing from fans that he was just terrible. He needs to be traded. He needs to retire. He needs to be bought out. No. I don't remember hearing any of that this season, right? Now, maybe a lot of that has to do with most of what was being talked about was Erik Karlsson's, amazing season. And most of what was being talked about was how Timo Meier was about to get traded, and then he did, right? Maybe that was why it kind of overshadowed, but I don't remember seeing much of anything in the way of Marc-Edouard Vlasic is terrible. So yeah, absolutely happy to have gotten that one right. And again, you never want a guy to not play well. You never want to wish poorly on someone. And this is one of those guys that, I always wanted him to have that bounce back. He hadn't been himself for a long time. I think under Bob Bugner, he was in the doghouse. And, Mike Greer and Coach David Quinn, they do reward the hard work, and the guys, they're putting the hard work in. And it gave him kind of another breath of life. And you could see it this season. He looked much better. He had more time on ice, I'm sure, than the last season. Although his last game shows 2 minutes of time on ice. Was he injured or something in the last season?
He got hurt.
In the last game?
He got hurt. It wasn't even the last game. He got hurt a couple games before. Patrick Herbal just said Pickles dropped below 17 minutes a game, so not a total win. Incorrect. He was down to about 12 minutes the year before, so he's up to 17 minutes this season. So he got more playing time than he did last year. And
that
just
is a resurgence. That's what we said. That is
Scott, you just asked for the polo shirt. We do sell the polo shirts.
Oh.
They're in our store. So, and super producer Jason just put the link in there. And
that's the last thing we want to talk about is the polo shirts. Hey
Yeah,
guys,
right.
thanks for a great season.
All right, on to the topic at hand that everyone has been dying to talk about here.
Yeah.
Get on with it!
Noah Gregor. You want to lead off here, Paul?
Noah Gregor. That was a preseason prediction. We don't have a clip of this. That is a preseason prediction that I only got 10% wrong to Aaron's 70% from earlier. Okay, let's put this into perspective here. I said 9. He got 1 more than that. And it looks really good because it fills up 2 columns for the kids in second grade doing math. Okay. That's why it looks good, because there's 2 columns. All right. You don't get off that easy, Paul. Okay, Peter St. John. Scott says, what? Shut the front door. There you go. Yeah. So he got 10 on the season. But I want to put this into perspective real quick, okay? He got his 10th goal on the last game. Okay. Of course he gets it on the last game because he watches the show and he hates me.
They don't ask how.
I
Just
did
how many.
ask how many, absolutely. And how many was 10. However, after 73 games, how many was 4. So he waited until the last 9 games to pot 6 goals, one of which was a hat trick. My hat goes off to you, sir. Okay. But
To be fair,
the season was way beyond over to finally score those 6 to get him to 10.
to be fair,
He
only played 57 games.
That is true. He did only play 57 games. That is true. However, when it comes to shooting percentage, let's see if I can find this real quick because I had this up here.
Shooting percentage is 8.4 this season.
Yes, this season was 8.4. And do you have his shooting percentage last season?
5.1.
A mere 5.1. And if we remember, he was down at like 2% at one point in that season.
I think less than 2%.
But the thing is, so, okay, let's take a look here. In 63 games played last season, it's only 6 games more. He had 156 shots on goal, right?
Wow.
And this season, 119. In only 6 more games, he had far less shots on goal. So I guess what we could say is his shot volume went down, but the shot quality maybe increased. And that's why it jumps from 5.1 to 8.4, which, by the way, prior to that season, that horrendous season last year, he played 30 games with the Sharks in 2020, 2021, and scored a mere 5 goals. But that was also on 60 shots for an 8.3 shooting percentage. So that appears to be closer to where he ought to be if you're talking about market corrections. 5.1 seemed pretty far off, even for Noah Gregor. But yeah, so he's, again, 8.4 shooting percentage, what he ended the season with. Again, waiting until those last 9 games to get those 6 goals, waiting until it doesn't matter anymore. Now, can you imagine if Noah Gregor decided to pop one of those goals here and there in one of those 33 games that we were talking about earlier? Maybe some of those 20 wins would get just a little bit closer, you know? Oh boy, there's the jersey he wants.
There it is. That is the jersey that was purchased and is on its way.
Oh, it's a done deal, is it?
It's a done deal.
Tell you what, if it gets to me in time, I'll wear it for the next show that we do. That's the Graham episode, is it not?
I will not be here. Yes,
perfect.
It'll be. I will be there in spirit with the jersey.
Of the forwards, only Lindblom, Zetterlund, Janssen, and VL were worse when it comes to shooting percentage. Okay. Of those 4, only Lindblom even scored. The rest of them had 22 games, 11 and 4 games respectively between Zetterlund, Janssen, and VL. VL only 4 games. Of course, he's not going to score.
I don't understand why you're talking so much smack about the jersey you're going to be wearing next season.
I'm just saying, I'm putting this into perspective for people. That's all I'm doing. Okay. Everyone else on the team had a higher shooting percentage apart from those 4 players, 3 of which didn't score a goal, and they have to have 0% because of that. So
we're gonna take a whole photo shoot with that thing on, maybe in front of the arena or something. It's just gonna be.
I'm gonna get it signed.
Oh, maybe we'll get it
signed.
signed. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm your biggest fan. He's gonna look at you and go, Paul, I know you're so full of it.
If he can sign it and it says to my number 1 fan. I will try. I will do my best. I don't mind taking my jabs, Aaron. I'll take them. And the last point that I have about this whole Noah Gregor thing is that I regret nothing. Okay, I regret nothing. Let's understand the bet and what happened here. I lost a bet by 1 goal, and my punishment is that Aaron is buying me a jersey. There's cool.
That you have to wear. I'm not just buying it.
Been a much bigger deal.
You have to wear it. I'm not just buying it. You're wearing
If
it.
he scored the hat trick, I'd have to wear it to every home game. That's what you said.
Yeah, whatever. That's fine. You still got to wear the dang thing. Anyway, let's get into this is getting long-winded here. We got a couple of charts here. This is our next show will be for the actual lottery, and that's going to be in a month, I believe, roughly about 3-4 weeks from now. I will not be here. I will be out of the country for a wedding, so Graham will be slipping in for my spot here with Paul. And I want to give a quick shout out to Graham because he won the fantasy hockey league for the Fin Factor. In fact, here's the trophy. I'm going to engrave his name up here somewhere over there. I don't know. So Graham is going to be the inaugural winner of the fantasy hockey Fin Factor Fantasy Hockey League. And just a quick note, if you are a fantasy player, it's a keeper league, and there are 2 teams that will probably be dropped. I did not drop the trophy.
Did you just break it?
No. You know what it just fell? My Joe Thornton little stick or figure. He just fell off the little thing right next to it.
You said something about people being dropped, and I thought you meant the cup that you just dropped.
No. There's 2 players that will be dropped next season, so I'll have 2 spots open if you are interested in a keeper league. It's only a $50 buy-in, and if you win, your name goes on the trophy, and that trophy will be in the background of our new set. So it will always be on the show starting next season. Anyway, going into the lottery.
Before we get there, real quick. Scott just said he literally just placed his order for a polo.
Oh, beautiful.
So I want to call that out and say thank you, Scott, for supporting the show. Appreciate that. Again, if you guys want to check out the polos, they're on the finfactor.com. Support the show link, I believe is what it is. All the products are there. So if you'd like to get the polo as well, feel free. There you go.
Excellent. Okay, going into the lottery.
Yeah.
We have a chart here. This is from NHL Stats. This shows you the percentages that the Sharks have to getting the first overall pick, 9.5%. Since they are 4th, they ended up 4th worst in the league. Only a 2% difference between them and Chicago, and people are pretty upset about that. I'm like, whatever, 2% more odds. Blah. Was that a couple more balls in the thing? Anyway, what's interesting to me is the next chart that I have here, and this is the draft lottery odds of where the pick will actually fall. So they have obviously a 9.5% chance of picking first, and then I actually can't even read that because it's so small on my screen. There, I made it bigger. 9.8% of getting second overall, and then they can't get third. They won't be able to jump up third. 15% chance that they get their actual 4th pick, and that is because there's so many odds that somebody will win a ball. Basically, if Columbus, Chicago, and Anaheim win the lottery, they would keep their pick. If anyone else wins the lottery, they're going to lose it, and they're going to get pushed back to 5th and or 6th. So 44.9% for 5th, 20.5% for 6th. So, yeah, it does not look great for the Sharks to get a top 2 pick, and even their own 4th pick is not looking so great. So, yeah, more than 50-50 odds that they're going to be picking 5th or 6th overall here, which kind of sucks because the player, they drop off at that point, like the quality. But what I'm interested in is seeing what the other teams do, because there's that one player from Russia that is signed in the KHL for 3 seasons. Maybe they don't take him, and maybe he falls to the Sharks, let's say 5th overall, right? That would be amazing, I think.
So it's kind of interesting here. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th team down, which is Philadelphia, they're the first team to have the highest odds of getting the pick that where they're slotted. Everybody else above that is slotted to get a worse, has the highest odds of getting a worse pick than where they are, even the number 1, number 2 guys, right? So it's kind of interesting that, like, by number 7, you're kind of like, okay, now we're feeling pretty comfortable that we're actually going to get 7, right? And the guys that are behind that actually have pretty decent odds of, like, very good odds of getting that exact pick. But yeah, it's just kind of funny. Like, 7's kind of that breaking point. Just something I just kind of noticed there. Anyway, yeah. So the next show that we'll be doing will be with Graham and myself because Aaron's not going to be here. So that's going to be a fun one, I think. Graham, of course, knowing lots and lots about prospects, so he'll have the ability to answer all of your prospect questions that I simply can't. So that'll be a good show, I think. It'll be fun for me.
Yep.
Learn a bit here. So there you go.
Exactly.
Tank card for Bedard is off. Move down for Mitchkov is a go. And there you go. That's awesome. All right, cool. So, Aaron, I think we've gone much farther than we need to on this. Is there anything else that you want to call out in the chat or anything you want to point people to? Nothing. We're good.
Yeah, I think we're good. We should wrap this up.
Sounds good. Okay. Hey, guys, again, it's been a season wrap-up, episode number 180. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, not just tonight, but for the entire season. It's been so much fun being able to chat with you guys and kind of poke fun back and forth, things like the Noah Gregor jersey and whatnot. It's all in good fun. I'm enjoying it. I hope you guys are too. And it's just been a tough season, but we're glad that we can bring a little bit of light to it. As Aaron likes to say, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and this usually means it's a train about to hit you. So I guess that's going to do it for not just this episode, but for this season. I do want to remind you guys, just like one of our other guys came in here and I was with Scott, picked up a polo shirt. You guys can go and support us same way, thefinfactor.com. Check out the links to go ahead and pick up any of that merchandise that we have, stickers, hats, anything else. Again, the season's over, but you can continue to support the show if you'd so choose. So if you do like to do that, thank you so much. You get something back in return. Awesome for you. Okay, Aaron, I think that's going to do it. That's going to wrap us up. Again, I appreciate everybody in the chat. For super producer Jason, I'm Paul.
I'm Aaron.
And we will see you guys
in a few weeks.
In a few weeks, and it'll be me and Graham. So
for the lottery. Not me. Right.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, check out our other content, especially interviews. You can interact with us directly through social media at The Fin Factor and on Instagram at Fin Factor. And don't forget to join our live streams on YouTube.
Visit our website at thefinfactor.com, where you'll find all of our episodes as videos or podcasts. You'll also find our exclusive merchandise to help support our show.